Now, if you don't know what a furry is, it's an individual which, instead of being normal and masturbating to real people porn with real actors, they go and they get off to this, right? And so recently, the shooter of Charlie Kirk was revealed to have played on Steam video games with this type of paraphernalia. And so if you go on Twitter, you see a lot of individuals, at least the ones that I interact with, who are blaming the video game. Like, their idea is that without the cartoon, I guess Charlie Kirk would have still been alive today. Now, I think the situation is a little bit more complex, right? I don't think that if we send the Terminator back in time to remove that video game from existing, it would have saved anyone. And to me, also, this explanation is eerily similar to what the left uses with if only there weren't guns, Charlie Kirk would have been alive today. I reject both of concepts that have to do with safetyism. Like, I don't think, like, society can be perfected if we just remove a couple of things from it that have to do with entertainment and petty shit. And so I want to make this video to telling you what I think is the problem here. And at the end of the video, maybe you'll agree or not with me, but most of you probably know that when I was a teenager and a little bit later on in life, I used to be a furry. And so for the very first time, a lot of people that are subscribed to this channel will hear the arguments of a person that was on the inside and can tell you a little bit more what causes people to join the community. So if you're a concerned parent, at least you may know some of the signs. And I also talk a little bit about far left and far right extremism. Being on the internet, I interacted with both groups. A lot of the furries, as you know, are far left, but I also debated many people on the far right and interacted with them with social media, so I can definitely say something about that as well. There are similarities and differences between far left and far right. But first, let's focus a little bit on the furries. As I mentioned, I used to be one. I stopped being one the moment I got a girlfriend. It was by the time I joined med school. Her vagina healed me from my degeneracy and turned me into a weeb. And since that day, I only liked anime with girls that have big titties and plump tushies, and I have never got interested in this stuff again. But here's something that opened my eyes that I found very fascinating. Was talking with a furry 20 years ago, and we were noticing that a lot of the people around us have family issues or have actual trauma. And what I mean by this is, like, I was talking about this Brazilian furry, and he opened up to me and he said that a priest molested him when he was young, and he begged the priest to let him go, and eventually, like the priest did, his family called the cops, and it was in the newspapers. Apparently, the priest had killed other kids, right? So, like, he was lucky to escape. And I was like, oh, that's really fucked up, isn't it? And the other furry goes like, yeah, like, do you know that there's another case with this other guy, like, his uncle molested him? And I'm like, holy shit, well, isn't the case with the other guy that had his brother? And it was like, every single person, all of a sudden, that we knew, the more we thought about it, they had some family issues. Like, there was some trauma there. They weren't people that got raised in healthy families. Even the furry that I was talking with, he got traumatized because his girlfriend, which I think, like, they were 14 when it happened, like, she hanged herself. And he came into her house, and he saw that, and that traumatized him, and it remained with him. And it's like every single one had like some issues. So like that was like the first time I realized, okay, so like there is some problem in the community. Now that's later on I discovered that's just one group of people, right? It wasn't all furries. It was just like a big demographic of them. And while I don't have studies and surveys, the demographic must have been pretty big. Because on every forum that I would go, on every IRC server that I would go, I would notice the same thing. Like usually you would meet a person, and when they opened up, they had some really nasty thing happening to them in their past. And so, fast forward to, I believe it was 2016 when Antifa invades the furry community. And while that sounds hilarious, it was actually a very smart move for Antifa because they realized furries have a lot of money. If you're not aware, a fursuit can go all the way up to $5,000 or more. At the time, it was incredibly expensive. And also, furry art is expensive. Like, a furry artist could ask for $500 for a picture. So, like, furries have money, meaning that a lot of protests, a lot of NGOs, a lot of donations and funds can be raised up by using them. And the other thing they realized is that furries have a lot of time. They spend much of their time online, so they can partake into cancel culture activities. You would go on Twitter at the time, and you'd see someone getting fired. And when you'd look at the people that were contacting his place of business, it was at least half of them furries. And so Antifa used them as really good foot soldiers in order to put pressure on right-wingers. And you notice that the people that were coming in from Antifa, they weren't necessarily from bad families. Quite the opposite, actually. They came from really good families and stable homes. But looking at their background, it was always extremely religious. More specifically, Mormon background, Jewish background, and also evangelical background. And so I had to think a little bit. It's like, why is it that these three denominations are so overly represented when it comes to people that would join Antifa? Like, why is the children from these families so proeminent? And it was then they would join Antifa and then the furry community. And obviously it's not the ideology, right? Because it's like completely different religions, completely different belief systems and moral values. So it can't be that. And what I think it's the militant system, the type of raising your kid that a lot of right-wingers on the internet would say based now. But it's the idea of like every single Sunday morning you have to wake up and you have to go to church. Let me see what music you're listening to. Let me see what video games you're listening to. Let me see what movies you're watching. Tell me the friends that you're hanging out with, right? So you create a system where the child doesn't really have a sense of self. Like, he lives life through these guardrails. He's not allowed to do anything bad whatsoever. Constantly gets called by the parents minute after minute. Rules that don't make any sense. Like, you have to go to Sunday church. It's like, why? I already know the Bible. Leave me alone. And it ends up creating rebels. Like, the moment the child gets out of the household, he will do literally the opposite of everything that their parents taught him. Because he, number one, wants to explore the world. And number two, he also has a lot of spite, right? Because these families wouldn't negotiate with their kids. They wouldn't try to talk with the kids. They would impose stuff on their kids. They would force their kids. And so they end up trying to create a life where they're exactly the opposite of what their parents did, right? This is why the moral compass is 180. And you can see this happening with children from woke parents as well, except they're the ones that join far-right movements. And the perfect example is with Destiny's Child. If you notice, like, Destiny is a very progressive man, and his child is now praising Hitler. Like, it's the same thing, like trying to do the opposite of what the father is. And so, once you understand this, like, once you get the mentality of the type of people that are more likely to join far-left and far-right movements, you can understand what to do to prevent your children from joining those movements. Parenting is hard, obviously. I don't think, like, there's a cheat code. I don't think, like, there's a way to make sure that you're a good parent, because the child has its own personality, and sometimes you may have a child with a personality that's just like set to fail. Natural selection is a thing. But when I talk about extreme movements like far left or far right, what I mean is, like, you join a group that tries to erase your personality, tries to erase your sense of self, and build you back up again into something that you're not. So when you join, like, the furry community, or when you join Antifa, they definitely have this thing called groupthink. right? Obviously, like not every single one, but like it's the general vibe in the movement. And the groupthink like tells you what you are allowed to believe, and you can only assert to other people, or you can be silent. Because if you believe something else, you get ostracized. You're treated like the devil. And this is pretty much what we notice in the far left groups. Now, there's a lot of overlap between LGBTQ plus group and the furry community. And so, like, almost everyone that's a furry is also into LGBTQ plus, not the other way around. But if you have an ideology that basically tells you you need to respect someone's pronouns or else you're the devil, you're committing genocide, right? Like they actually accused J.K. Rowling of this. They said that because she doesn't affirm the gender ideology, then she's committing genocide. And you should stop bigots by any means necessary, punch a Nazi and all of that. Then eventually, like someone does internalize this. And you end up with a person that, from what I understand from the media, is actually from a respected family. But he joined an extremist group, right? An extremist ideology, and he got radicalized. Now it's important to understand why they joined this types of ideology, because it's not the video games or the furry art that does it. The problem is that you have an individual that doesn't feel like they fit in society, right? Like if they're constantly getting invalidated, like if his hobbies, his passions, everything gets invalidated, they're wrong, they're not good. Eventually, when he goes on the internet and finds a community that actually accepts him and is completely different than the people around him, they're much more likely to join that community. And so this is why it's important for parents to actually find hobbies for their kids and encourage them. This is why it's important to understand that a teenager is also going to start being interested in vices, whether it's drinking, whether it's watching a titty, whether it's like if they're 16, they're going to try to start exploring. I'm not saying that a parent should be indulgent and allow everything, but instead of like completely banning your kid from drinking or going at parties, a father should actually spend some time with the kid, go out in town on a family get-together and have a beer with the kid. It's not going to be the end of the world, right? And instead of telling him, no, if you touch alcohol, you're grounded, you never get to go outside. Why not say something like, okay, if you go to a party, you can have like 2 beers, but don't get wasted. Isn't that more common sense? And if the kid does get wasted, then you punish. Instead of telling the kid, oh my goodness, you masturbated, that's horrible, go and pray to Jesus. Allow him to watch Baywatch, allow him to have some free time. That doesn't mean that they should go into degeneracy. Like, of course not. Have parental controls. Always see what your kid is doing. But we all were teenagers. Like, we know how it's like. And I do believe that being too permissible is just as bad as being too extremist. Allowing the kid free reign is just as dangerous as controlling everything and not allowing absolutely any type of bad behavior. Because I'm telling you, like someone that was in the furry community, and I've noticed a lot of people from families that were helicopter parenting. And, if I was to get a list of what those parents did, everyone would say, well, they did everything right. And this is the exact same situation. Like, from what I see in the media, his parents did absolutely everything right. And yet, it still ended up with this monster. And it kind of reminds me of Elliot Rodgers in a way. For those of you who don't recall, Elliot Rodgers, also known as the Supreme Gentleman on the internet, the one that got the incel movement at the time completely demonized to the point where even today it's a slur to be an incel. He came from a good family. Like, he wasn't abused. His family was upper middle class. He had an expensive car. And yet, he ended up doing what he did. It's unfortunate. As for the degeneracy itself, because people look at this and it's like, why are individuals degenerate? Again, I used to be a furry until I got a girlfriend. And once I got a girlfriend, I just stopped. And I noticed this a lot with other furries. Like, a lot of them, in fact, like the overwhelming majority of them at the time I was in the community, never had a girlfriend. In fact, the furry community itself had very few women. And it's a no-brainer. If you take men that can't find companionship, their hormones are raging, they're horny as hell, some of them are going to transition and they're going to play the part. And that's pretty much what happened. And then you have the ideology that venerates and worships the ones that transition, and they say that any type of person that disagrees with their gender or that even tries to breach the subject is a person that uses words as violence, and so they can justify doing violence against those people as self-defense. It's horrible. But anyway, my assessment here is that the degeneracy comes from the lack of companionship. You don't get lack of companionship because of the degeneracy. Because I've noticed this with other furries as well. Like the moment they got a girlfriend in real life, they just left the community. And so the problem is with single men. And the reason you have so many single men is also because of the way society is hardwired against men right now due to feminism. Where if you even approach a girl on the street, you have a Gillette commercial telling you that you're a rapist. And you have like all of the demonization towards men. And on top of that, men have absolutely no way to know how to properly approach a woman. Like, what must they do in order to be attractive? There is absolutely no institution that tries to tell them this. The only ones that do are feminist institutions ran by women who have no experience in picking up other women or attracting other women. Right? Like, they know how to attract men. They know how to be attractive for men. And then it's also the fact that, well, women also seem to like, in 2025, they seem to like men within the age range of 30 to 40. That's the reality. Why? Because, well, they're the ones that have a house, they're the ones that have a car, and they're the ones that have their life in order. Meanwhile, if you look at a guy that's 16, right, he wants to get a girlfriend, he wants to get a significant other, women aren't interested in that. Like, the overwhelming majority of women aren't. And what do men do between the age of 16 and 30? They get desperate. That's what they do. And desperation leads to this type of stuff. Banning these communities, I personally think it's like banning the symptom, but not the root cause of the problem. The community itself exists because lonely, desperate men are trying to find other people that can sympathize with them. And so, even if those communities wouldn't exist, they would create other communities. So that's not the way to solve it. The way to solve it is to figure out how to make 16-year-old men feel fulfilled about being men. Feel comfortable about being men, feel happy in their shoes, have lifelong dreams and aspirations that they feel that they can accomplish. And so, as you notice, the solution is incredibly complex, incredibly difficult, and no one is even bothering to start something like that. And until then, you're not going to fix the problem. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.